Well,
Hello, how are we doing today, Blothar?
I am all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So my name is Riley, and I'm a music feature writer here at Mixdown, and I'm here today with Blothar the Berserker from GWAR. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm fine. You're a music teacher?
Writer, feature writer.
Oh, feature writer. Oh, okay. Feature. Right.
hmm But yeah, so we see you recently, took over as GWAR's lead vocalist, after you instantaneously appeared at their 2014 Riot Fest performance in Chicago, after the departure of GWAR founder Oderus Urungus. How has it felt to carry on his legacy these past 9 years?
Well, it's been interesting, that's for sure. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, we've had Guar's had a good time. Obviously, it's been a difficult time for the entire world, what with the pandemic and all of that. But we've soldiered onward, and GWAR is doing better than we ever have. We've got certainly a lot of irons in the fire these days, working on films, working on new music. We've got lots of products out. There's no end to the level of that which we're willing to whore ourselves out for money. So there's like I said, a lot going on. We miss Oderus for sure, and we do feel like it's uh, our charge, our mission is to carry the band forward in his absence, and hopefully one day see him again.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And we can definitely see, all of the work you guys keep putting in and, keep doing show after show, incredible show after show. But, Lothar, where did your journey with rock and roll start? You've spoken before about going against your mother and your stepfather's wishes for you to be a priest and, your first interactions with GWAR and the Marine Corps band and Scumdogia, but you've never shed what led to you playing music in the first place.
Well, I mean, I was kind of an overweight calf, so to speak, you know, and I didn't really get to talk to the she bulls very much until I figured out one day I went to see a band perform at a little small town festival. I saw this great big huge fat dude, and he was playing bass guitar. And then when he got done playing bass guitar, he was talking to the most beautiful woman that I had ever seen. It was like some tall, foxy lady, and I was like, "Wow, that's a that's a hot chick, man." And so I was like, "Is that all you have to do? Is like know how to play the bass guitar, and then you can have girls talk to you?" So I mean, like every other musician on the face of the earth who has a wiener. And then I assume that it's kind of true the other way around. I started playing music for chicks.
So yeah, so you can say hot chicks started everything, huh?
That's right. They did. They started it all. Of course, in my case, hot chicks on my planet were, it's a relative term.
All right. Well, you're currently right in the middle of your Age of Imbeciles tour, a full North American tour with support from Negative Approach, Cancer Christ, and X Cops. How has your experience been so far and what makes this special compared to, previous tours?
Well, I'm here to tell you right now that X Cops is bananas. I don't know what's going on with that band, but if that's what the police force in this country is like, then we are in big trouble. Um, and you know, as far as Negative Approach, I mean that's an old school hardcore band, and GWAR actually has very similar roots to Negative Approach, because GWAR, let's not forget that we started out as a band on the American hardcore punk rock scene, um, in the mid '80s to late '80s. Um, so it's been great to hook up with these guys who we've known for a while and who we've always liked, and they still bring it, man. They're still just a powerful. They're teaching the kids, man, that this is how it's done. And Cancer Christ, this is a newer band, and they're just bananas. I mean, that is a weird, weird band. Uh, the very first night that we played, the singer just repeatedly keeps making horrendous mistakes that are like every night we're just laughing at our tour manager because it's some new nightmare. The first night they played, he lit the entire street in front of the venue on fire, and he was dressed like a priest, and he was out there apparently just trying to incite a riot. I don't know what he was trying to do. And so we were like, we had to talk with him, like, look, no more trying to set the place on fire. Like, let's at least agree to that. Then the next night, he just picks up an emergency phone that's downstairs that is all taped off and says, "Don't pick it up." And he just picks it up and says, "Oh." And so, like, they almost have to empty the building because of a fire alarm going on. The guy's nuts. He's clearly crazy. And we like that.
It sounds to say, it seems like they're even giving you all for a run for your money in terms of
Yeah,
craziness.
and they're keeping, yeah, and they're a great bunch of guys, and they're very funny. So we love it.
But speaking of ex-cops, what's your involvement with their opener? Can you confirm or deny, any participation with the group?
I don't have any participation with the group except for that, I try to stay away from them because
yeah,
I'm
of course.
I'm not worried they're going to arrest me. I'm worried they're going to take my drugs, smoke them.
Yeah, you got to keep those protected.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then, so speaking of tour, there's a Loudwire interview where you state that you only murder compelling figures on stage. Is there a criteria that you have for deciding what puny human is worthy of death at your hands? Who have you destroyed on tour so far? Is there anyone you're looking forward to destroying that you haven't yet?
Yeah, I mean, basically, GWAR, there are a couple of different types of murder victims, right? We have the archetypes, right? Like the sort of symbols of power in our world that we go after. And then we have the actual sort of celebrity types that are, for one reason or another, completely repulsive. And it's pretty easy. I mean, like we choose sanctimonious people, we choose figures of power, we choose disappointing politicians, and which isn't hard. I mean, just pick one, just they're all disappointment. They all fucking suck. And celebrities, I mean, there's always something wrong with those people. So it's pretty easy to pick on them, honestly. I mean, you won't see us killing, like, the good ones, right? Like, I mean, Dolly Parton, she's certainly compelling, right? I love Dolly Parton. We're not going to parade Dolly Parton out here and kill her. She's on our side. You know what I mean? But we might kill what's this, Jason Aldean, like that he's available. Why? Because he's a turd. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jason Aldean, he needs to hear this so he can make sure to keep running. Never come to a GWAR show for him. But speaking of tour, you recently surprised your fans on your Friday the 13th show by bringing out Oderus Maximus, for on the fan favorite The Cutter. And what was it like to perform this song live in its full glory for the very first time?
Well, Oderus Maximus, that's her name, and I'm not mispronouncing it. There is a Taurus, it's like a bull thing, Oderus Maximus. She's got a lot going on. And I'm not just talking about, in the pants. She's got a lot going on. That is a very talented human being, but she's not a human being. She used to be a human being. Then she turned into Oderus Maximus. But her human form was, of course, Lzzy Hale, the singer for the band Hailstorm, and guitar player. And she's just so talented, just so, I mean, it's like having Lady Gaga up there or something. She's just fantastic. And we share a manager. We have the same manager. And it turns out that Lizzy's, she was a GWAR fan. So what could we do? We had to make her a character, Oderus Maximus, to come out on stage and join the Maximus clan because she is a guitar player. Our fans, who at times will reach the level of like Star Trek enthusiasm, right? Like just complete goobers. And they're like, he can't be a a Maximus because she's not a guitar player. And I'm like, yes, she is, you freaking dimwit. So anyway, like they try to tell us what the rules are for our band.
I was gonna say, I believe she just got named one of Rolling Stone's newest top like guitarists of all time. So yeah, she definitely deserves to be a part of that Maximus clan.
Freaking dum-dums.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so I was gonna say, you all, speaking of, making music, best guitarists, you all have been making music for decades, What keeps everyone motivated and inspired to continue to create, the music that you do, especially as elaborate and extravagant as it is?
Fear, absolutely, just fear. If we stop, we'll die. No, I mean that, and I mean, generally, I think that it's fun. We have a good time doing it, and we'll stop when it's not fun. There isn't anything like the band, and there isn't any place we can go see people do the things that we want to see. So we just have to do them ourselves. So that's kind of how that works. Well, that's allowed, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, and I feel like, yeah, it makes sense. And I think what people really seem to enjoy about, your music is your ability to strike that perfect balance between humor and fun and seriousness. And your latest album, The New Dark Ages, it explores some pretty dark, heavy themes of technologies, social degradation and its contribution to the loss of truth. How do you balance these two things that seem to contrast so much?
I mean, the world is a funny place, right? I mean, it's not hard to find humor in things. Um, I think that, the problem is that people who play this type of music, who play heavy metal, and oftentimes who play rock and roll in general, they take themselves too seriously, right? And they believe that they have to build an image uh, of authenticity. That everybody strives for authenticity, and they do it by being as artificial as they possibly fucking can. And GWAR, we don't care about being authentic. We are absolute artifice, and that is one of the most freeing things in the world. We don't have to worry about being fucking pretentious, right? We don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We just do what we do. We just create what we want to see. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of lost track of the question a little bit, but I think what we try to do is GWAR has always been a sort of funhouse mirror of the world, and we managed to launch a pretty serious critique of modernity, even though and it's disguised in absolute absurdity, right? But I mean, what else is the world? I mean, it's a world that is so horrible if you really look at it. That if you don't find, if you're not born with a way to filter out the misery and pain of this world, then you'll absolutely go insane. I think that that's what insane people are people who lack that filter in some way. So it's our job to talk about this whole world that people choose all the time not to see, right? Because if they did, they'd lose their fucking minds.
Yeah, no, I would say, and I think you guys, it is reflected that it is true art. And I would say that that is how, you get such that big audience. And I feel like why you've had so much success over the years is I feel like your music allows a place for people to come and, dig into the humor, dig into the fun. Because I agree with, if we get too caught up in the seriousness of this world, I think, yeah, like there wouldn't be any fun, there wouldn't be any humor, there wouldn't be any joy.
And people, that's right. And people are that you constantly get asked, we constantly get asked, well, how has GWAR not been canceled? Right. And the answer to that is that why would you want to cancel this? Right. Like GWAR is, for one thing, that assumes that there are platoons of people out there who have no legitimate complaint, right? They just are like and I do believe that's certainly true for at some level for some people, but by and large GWAR appeals to the disaffected, and it appeals to GWAR. We have a tremendous audience of trans people, of people who I mean, obviously being a metal band, our appeal across racial lines, just because the music itself has traditionally been raced, is not what it could be, but like, or what it should be. But certainly, like, GWAR manages to be inclusive by being abusive to everybody, and people don't want to, I mean, they're addressed. People are addressed, right? We're talking to people, and I think that they appreciate that. I think that, that's why when we look out in the crowd, there's an incredibly diverse group of people, and why GWAR is spared some of that. I think that people understand that GWAR is making a statement, right? We're not talking about how great it is to, I don't know, like, just get money and abuse women and be sexist and transphobic and all that shit. I mean, GWAR is for the outcasts of this world, and it's made by the outcasts of this world. We're not rock stars. We don't hang around backstage with fucking Slayer, right? Like, we're not cool dudes, right? We're fucking comic book geeks, and we don't give a shit about Slayer or any other band. Like, we're we're much more interested in the people that like those bands, right? The goobers that those guys don't want to hang out with, we'll hang out with them, right? That's what GWAR is.
Yeah, GWAR is for the goobers. And I would say it has definitely, I feel like, transcended. You were speaking earlier about those racial lines. I would say, it's transcended racial lines. I think it's transcended timelines. I think there is a very upkeep in, young GWAR fans and people who I feel like really are resonating with your messages and really are, thinking it, seeing it as this stance and seeing it as this statement and looking at it as this piece of, critical artwork and critical thinking, instead of just, I feel like, which is so easy these days, to just cancel something, because they're not really looking at what's the message behind the acts are, or seeing
Right.
it as an artistic statement.
Yeah.
But yeah. And you all have been, speaking of art and your various projects, all the members of GWAR have been involved in various side projects and collaborations, across your time here on Earth. How would you say that these experiences have influenced your band's exploration of sound or even genre?
So this is our explorations of sound, how they're influenced by what?
By your various side projects, collaborations that you've done throughout the years, or even just, your whole, I would say, Slave Pit studio, Slave Pit Records. Like, how does that all come together to, influence your sound and genre?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So GWAR is a band of eras. And the initial era was a group of people who were art students in Richmond, Virginia. And this was in 1985. And at the time in art school, people didn't really, there was sort of a division between, for instance, illustrators and fine artists, right? And so the sculptors and painters and actors who made GWAR, and musicians, right? They and you'll notice that the musicians were almost an afterthought, right? These were people that were already just really into art and very aware of these sort of artificial conflicts and classifications of art. And GWAR started out in a very avant-garde sense as sort of taking pot shots at what was considered art. And some of the guys who started it, they were a little bit older than, even in 1985. These were guys who had really been there in the late 70s, right, when punk rock got started. And so these older guys, they had different tastes in music. And we brought in a bunch of younger musicians, right? And at the Slave Pit, when people were working on stuff and making stuff, well, those guys would listen to the music that they listened to, right? Aerosmith and Jesus Christ Superstar, and Devo and Parliament, and all of these bands that people don't associate with GWAR at all, but that go into the gumbo that makes this band. And in particular, even like bands like the Tubes, right? Like, people don't think about bands like that anymore, but Trio, for instance, right? These are bands that had an idea, right? And that pursued that idea, especially somebody like Devo. So it wasn't like a big sort of dumb Emerson, Lake and Palmer, art project. It was more like underground comics, right? It was something fun and funny. But definitely, I mean, the sounds that they listened to influenced the sounds that we were making. The bands we would play with, the Butthole Surfers, GWAR has traditionally, at least the first few records, we tried to kind of incorporate weird sort of tribal and industrial sounds, making the sounds that we think that barbarians from outer space would make. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, in a lot of your earlier works, I think we do see a lot of that exploration of genre, because I feel like, there's even everything from like a little bit of country to jazz,
Yes.
like punk, metal, like it goes everywhere.
Yeah, and GWAR's free to do that, right? We don't have to do, I love like, and I love bands that do it, but don't make any mistake. I mean, I was sort of talking about Slayer, but that was more like being just some of the people in the band. It's more like, but sound wise, like sonically, that band has a sound that they've managed to develop over time. AC/DC would be a great example of a band that like has a sound that doesn't really change, but that it does get better, and it's great and it's classic. GWAR's never been interested in doing that. Like we want to be able to play a lot of different types of music, and we can. That's what's so fun about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that that's one thing that really sets GWAR apart from, other metal bands at that time, is just y'all's continuation to grow and evolve and push yourselves as a band. And, I'm sure changing, members helps, but I feel like to have that just exploration, and, I think you mentioned earlier, freedom is what you said, like that freedom. I feel like when you think of GWAR, you do think of a very free band, concept, visually, musically, like it's very
Yeah.
free.
And when people watch, it's interesting, like when people see GWAR, even out of context, one of their first reactions is this sense of liberation. I've noticed that. Like they're like, oh wow, these guys break all the rules. That means there aren't any rules, right? So I'll take my artificial leg and throw it up on stage, right? Or I'll, just like, I mean, we've played shows like, especially in the early days, where it basically looked like a saloon brawl in the Wild Wild West, right? Like, as soon as we come out there, people are just taking their shirts off and pouring booze down one another's throats. Just a insane party.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Gonna say, do you remember any like specifically crazy moments across your whole career? Do you have like the most crazy moment you've ever seen at a show?
We always talk about this one show that we did called at a place called Taco Land, which was in San Antonio, Texas. And San Antonio has a long history with punk rock. I mean, it was one of the first places, it was one of the stops on the Sex Pistols tour in the United States. So Taco Land was a pretty legendary venue. And they had a the interesting thing about it is that it was run by this Mexican American guy, and most of the clientele that would come during the day were migrant farm workers, and then at night it was a punk club. So what happened was that Ram, who was the guy that ran it, like when we brought all the stuff in, he was like, man, this is crazy stuff these guys are bringing in. So he called all of his friends who were all migrant farm workers, right? And they all came, and there was like literally like, a couple hundred Latino, like, itinerant workers there, with ladies, like, beautiful ladies all done up, and like and everybody drinking and having a good time, like drinking tequila and watching GWAR. And they had never seen anything like it. I mean, obviously, I mean, it was one of our first tours across the country. And what I remember is that there were so many of them there that the punk rockers, like when they started opening the door, they couldn't get in, right? So they were outside looking in, like watching the show from the courtyard. And Ram just let them in, like for free, like they were just hanging out in the courtyard. but inside it was exactly what I described to you, like a freaking people shooting guns in the air and just losing their minds. And I'll never forget that gig. That was a crazy one.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a pretty good representation, of what GWAR is for. Like just opening minds, also getting a little crazy at the same time. You can't have one without the other at a GWAR show.
Oh, it was fun. I'll never forget that night, that's for sure.
Wonderful. But yeah, can you give us any hints to the future of GWAR? I know you said in the beginning you guys were working on some new music, some other products, so can we expect some more, masterful re-releases like Battle Maximus or specials like
Yeah.
the Scumdog Triple X Live? What can we expect?
Yeah, well, we have a Pit Records, which is our label. So we're going to be putting more stuff out on that. All the stuff that we own, that we, as we acquire stuff. We had this deal with Shudder where we showed our documentary, and we'll probably show do some more stuff with Shudder. We're definitely thinking about putting more of our catalog of video and film material out. And then we're also, like I said, I mean, the big focus right now is kind of working on this film that we're working towards. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's a lot. I'm sure fans will be all looking forward to that, especially the old footage. I feel like that'll be a real treat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I just have one more for you. So, if you ever indulge in lowly earthly food, what is your GWAR bar order?
Oh, my GWAR bar order. GWAR bar turns out to be a pretty good vegetarian and vegan restaurant, believe it or not. They have a lot of different types of food. But at Balsac, the Jaws of Death is quite an accomplished chef. Comes from a family of chefs. And I really enjoy the Jizz mac and cheese. That's pretty good. And I love the nachos there, man. Just straight up nachos. They're awesome. Pulled pork nachos. Yeah, smoked meat.
All right, that sounds delicious. Well, Blothar, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for taking your time to speak with me in Mixdown. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.